And of all the thing for Yota's sister to get harmed by, Debt Collector was honestly least on my list to the point that I didn't even assume that it was going to happen. But I have to say, this week's episode of The Day I Became a God was insanely fun. I never thought having a Kitchen Nightmare style episode where Yota dresses up as a 40-year-old businessman trying to help his sister's friend reshape her ramen shop in 3 days for just $3 basically would be as fun as it was, but leave it to this anime to make it work so flawlessly, and then by the end of the episode get introduced to a master hacker who can threaten his chauffeur saying, hey, I'll reallocate all the funds and you guys will be broke if I don't get my tasty treats. This is interesting, and I'm really glad that so far there hasn't actually been a supernatural twist to this. If they do go supernatural and they actually do make Hina a god, I do think it would work, and I think it'd be pretty interesting to have what seems to be a child be a god, because there's a lot of potential room for, like, did she just get born as a god, or is it something else? But I'm still going to hold on to the fact that I feel like everything that's happened with her is just honestly based on logic. Even the whole, like, martial arts scene at the end of the episode, where she perfectly placed the footprints and what numbers where he should throw a punch. That probably is her just watching a lot of fighting documentaries or something, or learning how to fight. I feel like that could logically be explained, but I guess only time will tell. And the fact that they seemingly have technology in this world that is so highly advanced. He has a little earpiece, he has his gloves, and he's able to hack into the entire town's security to find this lost little girl. So far, I've yet to see anything actual supernatural happen, and I'm curious if Hina is built around logic, or if maybe she came from a place that has insanely strong education system to the point that characters like Suzuki, which we get introduced to in this episode, are just child prodigies, it feels like. But I guess only time will tell. But honestly, this episode was the best for me, and I already thought last week was the best. So far, they're just getting better each week, and I'm loving the character banter. To me, this anime is just pure fun. It definitely has this style that I feel like only June could really create. It's a type of character interaction and banter that really just screams Brandon. It's something that's absurd. It's something that's anime. I mean, when's the last time that I can recall seeing an anime where the kid is like doing the eye pull down, tongue out, just mockery in the middle of basically a bar fight? Like, I don't recall seeing that ever since, honestly, 10 years ago for anime. Like, obviously before that, but most of the anime that pull those classic anime tropes are a decade old, something like that. So it's really nice to see all those classic anime shenanigans introduced in a modern way. And honestly, I'm really excited to see where they're going to take the more, like, intense plotline now, because so far it's just been Hina saying, don't do your homework, the world's going to end in 30 days, don't do this, the world's going to end in 30 days. And then, for whatever reason, she decided to help a failing ramen restaurant. And I'm not totally sure if there's a significance or a lack of logic. I'm going to assume the reason that she figured saving a ramen restaurant, even though the world's going to end in 30 days from her point of view, is important, but not doing your homework is because she really likes ramen. So maybe she's like, hey, I would rather have good ramen for the remaining days of the world. I feel like that's probably her logic, so it does kind of flow into her natural mindset, even though at first I was like, okay, you're telling our boy not to study and not prepare for school because the world's gonna end, but you're trying to save a failing ramen restaurant. But the more I watched the episode, the more I was like, okay, it actually does kind of make sense because she likes food so much. And just those simple moments where, like, she's playing video games, she's talking all this smack about being a god and how she really never will let her guard down, and then Yota's mom will pop up saying, hey, your bath is ready, and she'll turn into an innocent child. I really just like that dynamic. I know it's not for everyone, but I think if you made it to episode 3 and you're planning to continue, you have to enjoy it in some way, shape, and form, because really, so far, the only thing that's not really built around them so far is this new character, Suzuki, who maybe will be the saving grace for some people watching, being like, oh, I really want to see where this plotline's going to go. At the end of the day, I really do feel like the end of the world isn't an actual thing, and maybe if it is, she maybe came from a similar situation as Suzuki, who understands that maybe there's a corporation up to no good and maybe they'll be doing some pretty bad things. So far, I really don't feel like they're going supernatural. While they definitely have the setup and they could go supernatural, it really does feel like our girl is just pure logic based. The fight scene at the end of the episode, as funny and amazing and honestly badass as it was, at the end of the day, I don't see anything that he did that was like pre-predicted. It was more of like, hey, this is a traditional fight, this is how you counter it, and she probably just basically built around the footsteps for that. And honestly, I would be surprised at this point if she is a god. If she is, I'm not going to be disappointed, don't get it twisted. I think it would work quite well, and I mean, the setup's been there, but it feels like because of how much they're just shoving it down our throat. I doubt she's a god. I really feel like she's a normal girl using pure logic and is just a child prodigy in a similar sense as the character we get introduced to, who can hack into any bank and put all the funds in his rainy day account or something like that. But it's nice to see that kind of build up, because as silly as it was to see like the ramen has impact, it was actually interesting, and it does kind of make sense on how they turn this restaurant around. I mean, I watch a lot of Gordon Ramsay. I watch pretty much everything the guy has produced. And even though most of the kitchen nightmares, in terms of the restaurants, they end up failing just because they don't follow his advice, it honestly did feel like a Kitchen Nightmares episode. It felt like, you know, what he was saying in terms of like the name and brand change, the whole idea of like, it almost felt like chef side tables where you would like have a chef who would cook your food alongside your table. So the idea that they had this drip and they had this little catchphrase, it's a viral sensation. It's something that gets the customers a little more interested in the food. It does all follow the template of how to turn a restaurant around, and they honestly can do it in a week's time. It does happen. So it's really nice to see how they're able to be so goofy and ridiculous. How you have Yota's sister's friend here being like, okay, you're 40 years old, you want a babyface contest, absolutely, I believe it, 100%, no questions asked. And then by the end of the episode, she admits like, yeah, I didn't really believe you, but you did do this, so honestly, she must be a god if you're saying that this is who gave you all your advice. And our boy's just being like, yeah, she's not a god. It's just something that it constantly makes you think, is she a god or isn't she a god? Because what she's doing you would want to say is a miracle, and she is predicting things, but so far we have yet to see her do anything truly supernatural. When there comes a point where like they're walking down a street and they enter a building and she just randomly says, hey, someone's about to get shot, and you hear a gunshot 2 blocks down the road, while you may be able to argue, well, maybe she saw someone suspicious in her peripheral vision, at the end of the day, we've yet to see anything truly supernatural, and I honestly thought we were about to go supernatural when our boy was started doing some glowy hands. I was like, okay, I guess we actually are being more futuristic, when I realized that he was just using a computer that's on his body. I was like, okay, so far still, they're in the sci-fi realm, but they're not anything crazy supernatural, and honestly, I would like to see it stick to a grounded reality where technology is just insanely advanced. I mean, imagine if Hina had like some chip in her mind that just allows her to analyze things a lot better. You never know where the show's gonna go, but this was definitely a very fun episode after last week's episode with all the movie references, which I absolutely adored. It was nice to have an episode that was just all set in a ramen restaurant, and really, honestly, they did it realistic in terms of how to like turn a restaurant around, and they did it in such a bold and bombastic way that it just made it seem fun and exciting. And I'm so excited to see where this new character Suzuki is going to go, because apparently people just talk shit about him, but he has such skills that they need his assistance. And I don't know, his crib looks pretty messy, but it has this really interesting technology built inside it. I think we have a lot of potential now. I mean, we got the fun goofiness, but as we count down every episode, that calendar grows smaller and smaller in terms of how many days are left. I'm curious what the actual endgame plot will be, and the fact that they're slowly introducing it already seems to me that the pacing's on point and it's not going to feel rushed, because typically a show like this from June, you would see this type of like, hey, there's actually a more serious side going around the episode 5 or 6, so the fact that they introduced it at the end of episode 3, which I assume is going to be a very big importance in terms of the endgame, it says to me the pacing is definitely on point. I mean, we've already killed half of the calendar month, so I think probably by episode 6, the end of the world, whatever that may be, is going to be introduced, and we're going to have the rest of the anime to solve it or just watch it all crumble and burn. Overall, I'm still really enjoying the day I became a god. It may not be for everyone, and some people may not like the character interactions, but I absolutely adore them, and I'll probably continue to do so. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? And what did you think of the new and improved ramen restaurant? If you enjoyed the video, of course, I would like to show your support and hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.